Welcome to the Rehabilitation Engagement Collaborative, or REC. The REC's mission is to help rehabilitation professionals provide patient and family-centered care and promote a collaborative rehabilitation culture. In this overview video, our team from Johns Hopkins and Craig Hospital will do a few things: introduce you to the program, provide an overview of MI attitudes, spirit, and processes, present the basic MI skills, and discuss how the REC can be used by individuals, teams, and rehabilitation institutions.
We'd like to thank Bill Miller and Steve Rolnick, who created an MI culture of generosity and sharing that's been carried on by Chuck Bombardier and others in the Motivational Interviewing Network of Trainers. This has led to a widespread distribution of educational materials that have been included or adapted for this presentation. In that same spirit, others are welcome to use these MI overview materials.
To achieve optimal outcomes and quality of life, rehabilitation requires the active engagement of patients and their families. MI has been shown to improve patient engagement in their own healthcare. Though healthcare professionals are well trained in the technical dimensions of their discipline, they often lack training in the MI principles and skills that improve patient engagement. The lack of MI implementation in rehab settings is in part due to the lack of rehabilitation-specific MI resources. The REC team hopes to fill this gap to meet the needs of our rehab community. Motivational interviewing is a natural fit for the rehabilitation setting, as the two have a shared philosophy. Motivational interviewing is a collaborative, person-centered form of guiding to elicit and strengthen motivation for change. In rehab, the care process is collaborative, the patient is the center of the team, and we focus on strengths to guide patients and families in the recovery process. Now, let's lay the foundation for MI.
The foundation of MI is grounded in a specific spirit and set of attitudes that we bring to our interactions with patients, families, and team members. The unique MI skills utilize the acronym OARS. Therefore, the metaphor of a boat is utilized to symbolize the MI spirit that supports and underlies the OARS skills, which will be discussed in detail in the next video section. These attitudes and spirits keep our MI boat afloat as we navigate the challenges of rehabilitation and patient engagement. The MI spirit and attitudes are the foundation upon which our interactions are based. MI is not a set of techniques, but rather a way of being with patients, families, and team members. Without the MI spirit, our techniques are hollow and likely ineffective. People are sensitive and responsive to our attitudes towards them. Consequently, we strive to embrace this MI spirit. So let's delve into the components of that spirit in more detail. MI spirit is conceptualized by the acronym ACE. ACE is three key components: acceptance, compassion, and evocation. These together create a fourth aspect of the spirit, partnership, and in combination, these components facilitate engagement. Acceptance means welcoming where each person is in their readiness to engage in their care. Some individuals are fully ready to participate and readily follow through. These are often our easier rehabilitative experiences. Others, in contrast, are not ready or have mixed feelings about engagement. These folks are often experienced by us as far more challenging. MI calls upon us to accept that each person is on this continuum and to not judge them irrespective of their readiness to change. The spirit of acceptance also calls us to accept our own limitations. We cannot make anyone do anything. In contrast, it's our responsibility to skillfully reach out to patients and families in partnership. We cannot take on the burden of making clients participate. Additionally, the MI spirit is marked by compassion. This implies empathy for the unique situation, burden, strengths, and struggles of each individual. Recognizing that people are balancing competing demands and goals strongly impact their engagement in their rehabilitation and recovery. Importantly, MI Spirit inspires us to evoke and seek understanding of each individual's priorities. their motivation for a specific goal, and their level of confidence in achieving that goal. In sum, truly understanding their personal narrative to more clearly see the world through their eyes. When these attitudes are reflected in our words and actions, we have the ability to create that spirit of partnership that's critical to engagement in rehabilitation. The spirit of MI is reflected in our style of communication. The traditional clinical style is demonstrated where the professional is the in-charge expert and is responsible for fixing the problem, as well as pushing the person to engage and/or change. In contrast, the MI style is evidenced where the professional has expertise and their style is patient-focused, collaborative, and eliciting the individual's goals and motivations for change. Most of us recognize the value of the MI style. However, when faced with challenging patients, the pressure of shortened lengths of stay, and/or limited encounters, we may revert to a more traditional overlearned style. Let's take a look at how the MI spirit is reflected in our interactions with patients, families, and colleagues. MI sees its style less like bulldozing and more like gardening. Consequently, creating patient engagement often takes time and requires a supportive, nurturing environment. It's helpful to think of MI as having 4 stages or processes. We start by engaging the individual in the process of recovery and constructive change. We use listening and empathy as we strive to fully understand the client's perspective and what their experience is. This is the foundation of building a relationship with your client without trying to immediately fix, force, or coerce. Once we have established a connection with the person, we focus by guiding the person to a problem or target behavior that's important to them. We help the person identify what's important for them to change. Once the person has this focus, we look to evoke or draw out the client's internal motivation. This means understanding what are the important reasons for this focus and their ideas for how to accomplish this. We use questions and active listening skills to draw out these ideas. This avoids the expert trap of immediately telling the person what to do. For example, instead of saying, "You need to do this," we inquire, "What makes this important to you?" Having established what's important to the individual, we can move on to planning, which is the bridge to achieving goals and change. In this phase, we consolidate their commitment by asking key questions to determine readiness for action, as well as assisting with plans. While noting these processes, it must be stated that things seldom go smoothly from one stage to another. The process often involves circling back to earlier stages to re-engage and refocus on new goals. Before we explore the foundational MI skills in the next section that make this process come alive, let's review. We have covered the key foundations of MI. The MI spirit, with its components of acceptance, compassion, and evocation that lead to a partnership. This spirit keeps our MI boat afloat. We guide by asking, listening, informing. And lastly, we broach the MI processes of engaging, focusing, evoking, and planning. Now, my colleague will introduce the specific MI skills noted by the acronym OARS.
Once we have our boat afloat with our MI spirit, our oars provide direction, movement, and speed. MI has 4 basic communication skills that we'll go through one by one. There is strong evidence that when these skills are used strategically, people are more likely to be engaged in their healthcare and to make behavior change. You'll have a chance to view these MI skills in action in the upcoming vignettes. Let's start with open questions. Open questions are one that cannot be answered with a yes or a no, or elicit specific answers like name or date. Do you want to go to therapy? Is a closed question. What are your plans for therapy today? Is an open-ended question. Open questions get the patient talking and engaged in the interaction. Rehabilitation requires a collaboration between professionals and patients and families. Using open questions gets the patient engaged and establishes a collaborative structure for meaningful interaction. Using open questions, you can demonstrate empathy and acceptance and elicit engagement. Open questions can be used to frame an interaction, establishing a direction for the appointment and making sure the patient feels heard in their individual concerns. It can be easy as clinicians to feel pressured to accomplish our own to-do lists during a session, while open questions provide the opportunity for a more collaborative approach. For example, you might open an interaction with a question such as, "What's the most important thing you want to address in our appointment today?" And prior to ending a session, it can be helpful to check in with the patient about their concerns and the progress you've made together. You might ask, "What else do we need to deal with before we end? What questions do you have?" Now let's talk about affirmations. In healthcare, we tend to focus on problems. MI reminds us that people have strengths they bring to the rehabilitation process. Affirmation is a skill where we notice these strengths and bring them to the awareness of the individual. This reminds them of their retained abilities, strengthens our relationship with the individual, and potentially increases their confidence. Importantly, an affirmation is not praise or a compliment. While these are pleasant and make a patient feel good, they're based in you making a judgment of the person. Rather, an affirmation is noticing a behavior or something the individual says that is a sign of an inner strength or quality that can be helpful in their recovery. The observation must be factual, and the comment needs to reflect what you believe about the person. Studies show that positive comments, such as affirmations, are among the least common statements made by healthcare providers. The impact of affirmations can be powerful because affirmations comment on the patient's character, strengths, and values. You might challenge yourself as a clinician to at least once in the encounter comment on the individual's positive behavior or strengths. Remember to be genuine. Let's look at some examples. You'll notice that these provide an observation of behavior first, followed by highlighting the area of particular strength. You were on time for your appointment. You're committed to your recovery. You were afraid to go on the outing in the wheelchair, and you did it anyway. You're brave, and don't let fear get in the way. Or, you're always talking about your children. Your family is important to you. The third basic interaction strategy is reflections. Reflective listening is both a means of building your relationship with a person and a way to guide the conversation in a productive direction. Reflective listening involves being interested in, curious about, and respectful of what the person has to say. In doing this, you let the other person know you're listening and encourage them to talk more. When we use this skill, it conveys empathy and understanding, building our connection and the person's engagement. Reflective listening is useful when we encounter resistance, reluctance, or when a person is upset or agitated. As we reflect what they're saying, the person feels heard, understood, and is likely to feel less distressed. Here are some tips on reflective listening. It can be helpful to think of it as mirroring back what the person is saying. You can reflect either the content of their statement, you don't want to go to PT, or the feeling underneath, you're frustrated. In the beginning, simple content reflections are helpful. Feeling reflections can deepen your connection with the individual. You can also use stems or no stems. When you're uncertain, you might use a stem such as, "So you think," or "You're wondering if," "It sounds like." When you're more sure of what they mean, it is more helpful to use shorter statements. So rather than saying, "I'm wondering if you think therapy is a waste of time," just say, "You think therapy is a waste of time." It can be simple and just repeat a few words or paraphrase. Let's look at a few examples. We'll start with case 1. A content reflection here might be, "You've tried exercise videos." Or a feeling reflection is, "It's frustrating to try and to not succeed." You can see we can use the reflection to connect and focus the conversation on what we think is important. Let's look at case 2. If you want to help problem solve, you might use a content reflection, such as, you don't know what to do next. Or if you want to focus on the feelings, the husband's anger and the spouse's response, you might use a feeling reflection. It hurts your feelings when your husband gets angry. It's important to remember that an effective reflective listening response is a statement, not a question. With questions, inflection goes up at the end. With statements, inflection stays down at the end. Listen to this example. You're angry about what I said versus you're angry about what I said. When we turn the reflection into a question, it can have the effect of making the person feel as if we don't believe them or promote defensiveness. Rather, you're making a statement, letting them know you're listening, understand, and are with them. The last basic interaction strategy is the summary. The summary brings together what the person has been saying and can serve several purposes. First, it can serve as a transition to a new topic or bring an encounter to an end. It can also serve as an opportunity to see if the person is ready to take action. But let's consider several points. Who should do the summary? You can ask the patient to do the summary. Tell me what you're taking away from our session today. Or you can provide the summary. Today, we did X and Y and talked about Z. What have I missed? What should you say in a summary? Well, generally, the summary brings together a group of reflections, and if you're looking to move to action, an open question. When should you use the summary strategy? To move on to the next topic, to call for action, or at the end of an appointment. Remember, you do want to have a summary at the end of every encounter, but you don't need to have an action plan. Why might summarizing be helpful? The summary, particularly when done by the patient, provides an opportunity for enhanced learning and progress review. It helps patients feel heard and can transition to planning and goal setting. Let's look at a few examples. To recap, you're going to start this medication, you're going to use the heat in the evening for pain, stretch every morning, and keep track of your walking on your phone app. Another example might be, on one hand, you're not sure what you can do if you have to use a wheelchair, and on the other hand, you want to get back to doing more. Where does that leave you? That brings us to the end of our ORs. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague to describe how you can use the Rehabilitation Engagement Collaborative resources to build your MI skills for use in rehabilitation.
You have stuck with the video this far. Thank you for your interest and dedication. This has been an introduction to basic MI. As in other aspects of clinical practice, developing MI spirit and skills is not achieved in a short video. The video is a beginning. Let's explore how the REC may be used by individuals, teams, and rehabilitation institutions. If you want to do the program on your own, we recommend you complete the structured, continuing education approved online MI program. This includes 7 videos, including this one, that provide information and demonstrate principles and skills of MI tailored for rehabilitation professionals and situations. However, if you choose, you can view the videos on an ad hoc basis, in any order, or as the clinical need arises. In the resources section of the website, there are readings, electronic learning tools, and links to additional MI training opportunities. All you need to do is register on the website to obtain free, unlimited access. Your team or institution can utilize the REC resources in a number of ways. Consider doing the online course as a team and then hold team discussion about the content. Another option is to partner with the REC to plan and conduct an in-person training that supplements the online education with a 4-hour skills workshop. Following the workshop, your team will have access to a menu of training activities that can be used during team meetings, grand rounds, or staff meetings. In addition, your team will receive monthly reinforcement via an electronic rehabilitation engagement tip of the month. If you'd like more information on these options, you can go to the Contact Us portion of the website. Our goal is for the Rehabilitation Engagement Collaborative to be a resource for rehabilitation professionals to build attitudes and skills that promote engagement in rehabilitation and overall healthcare. Join us in creating a rehabilitation culture where patients and providers work in collaboration. Patients need it, you'll enjoy it, and the outcomes are better for all.